You wake before alarms, bone-tired yet sleepless, sensing how uncertainty has baked yesterday's zeal into brittle clay. Have you felt the hidden crackle of dryness beneath a polished schedule? Soft indigo stretches across the windowpane, calling you to stand where thirst meets promise, where patient dust awaits rain, where living waters murmur renewal, where quiet grace hovers like mist, and where dawn's dew prepares to send you refreshed. In that hush you praise the God who never withholds rivers from wilderness hearts, the eternal fountain whose mercy seeps into every forgotten furrow. You lay aside frantic plans and let your breathing slow, choosing to listen for his invitation to be made new. I will pour water on the thirsty land and streams on the dry ground. So Isaiah 4:4-3, his vow crosses centuries, drought is not destiny. His presence arrives like rain upon need. Which burden will you lower into that promise today? Which longing will you entrust to the one whose rivers never run empty? Now, as your heart grows still, we step into the flow he is already releasing, beginning with the rising thirst within you. You hear the faint chirp of a wagtail tracing the slim rim of rose along the horizon, yet inside your chest a hollow echo murmurs of need. You whisper the ache you tried to ignore, each hurried errand, each polite smile, each tidy checklist failed to moisten the hidden desert. You name it now, thirst, not merely for relief, but for life. In the first cool light you sense the one who carved river courses, waiting beside you. So you loosen clenched thoughts and breathe, calm. You picture the cracked silt of a summer, streambed curling in pale flakes, longing for the first silver thread of rain. As the deer longs for flowing streams, so your soul longs for me. Psalm 4:2 yearning is no flaw, but a compass. It points your heart toward the very source it was shaped to find. Let desire lead you home. Silence begins to pool. Slender beams of gold drip through treetops, and you imagine eternity entering each breath. You do not manufacture devotion. You simply remain, as thirsty earth waits beneath gathering clouds. Longing itself becomes surrender. Every restless question, every guarded hope, every brittle expectation settles like powdery soil at the feet of the living fountain. Mercy seeps into parched memory, softening what was rigid, loosening crusted grief until it breaks like dry clay under gentle drizzle. Gradually your inner terrain changes. Dry gullies widen, preparing room for promised streams. Shadows retreat, unsure where to cling. Forgotten songs, ancient lullabies of covenant faithfulness, float back on dawn's breeze, reminding you that the wellspring never abandoned you. You merely wandered from its melody. You lift your face, allowing early light to warm closed eyelids and trace the outline of hope forming behind them. Take this moment to admit dependence. Whisper, quiet, brave, I need you. Let need become trust, trust become anticipation. The air hums with a coming shower, leaves shiver as if rehearsing applause. You hold empty hands open, palms facing heaven, believing that emptiness invites abundance. Imagine fresh streams coursing through today's routines, conversations carried on cooler currents of patience, decisions anchored in clarity rather than impulse, footsteps cushioned by hidden springs. Picture lips tasting gratitude instead of dust. Remember the laughter that once bubbled unforced, and believe it will ripple again. Let each vision fall like seed into the soil of expectancy. Do not rush. Listen for the distant roll of thunder across spiritual horizons. Hear its promised waters are on the way. Recall how cracked riverbeds, once soaked, burst with sudden blossoms. Expect the same wonder within you. Resolve that when living streams arrive, you will not hoard them anxiously, but let them overflow, carving new channels of kindness wherever they travel. Even as this section closes, stay attuned to the subtle seep of grace beneath the surface. Trust that what feels slow is sure. Hold to the whisper weaving through the morning hush. I am making all things new. You kneel where the floorboards still store last night's fading warmth. And in the hush you turn your palms upward, noticing how they carry a film of invisible dust. Dreams ground fine by seasons of striving. You choose not to brush it away. Instead, you lift it toward the newborn light and admit how often you tried to mortar a future from dryness. One by one you name the plans pressed together like brittle bricks, the promotion pursued without prayer, the friendship managed with guarded smiles rather than grace, the schedule crammed so tight that riverbeds cracked beneath the weight. Every fragment testifies that thirst alone cannot fashion wholeness. It must be met by rain. The Lord formed man from the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life. So Genesis 2007, creation sets the pattern. The potter never despises clay. He murmurs possibility over particles you call failure. A velvet stillness spreads while dawn's first breeze slips through the curtains, carrying the scent of rain gathering beyond the city's edge. You sense the Father approaching with a basin of living water, not to lecture but to cleanse. He pours slowly, and rivulets trace the gentle geography of your palms, darkening every grain until grey turns copper, until potential awakens. Cool currents work their way along your wrists. Dust, once emblem of defeat, begins to cohere into workable clay beneath mercy's flow. Worry loosens, pride thins, and the raw places of your heart grow supple under his touch. Memory stirs. Childhood mornings shaping rivers in garden soil, guiding trickles with a twig, marveling as earth yielded to flow. God revives this small delight to teach you again that guidance is gentle. He does not drown your soul. He sends a patient stream, inviting contours to bend, inviting habits to soften. Rots of anxiety collapse, ambitions coated in urgency melt into pliable substance. Ready for redesign, yielding proves to be invitation, not resignation. The gifting of weight to hands wiser than your own. Listen to the rhythm now forming overhead, droplets tapping the roof like a distant drumline. Each soft third whispers, "Allo." Allow pride to dissolve, allow sorrow to be soaked, allow uncertainty to break open into fertile ground. You breathe deep, petrichor rises, declaring that heaven has met earth over your dwelling. Where dryness once echoed, a new resonance forms, a muted, steady heartbeat of hope. Pause and spread your fingers, feel budding suppleness. Whisper, "Shape me." Let the words linger. See the potter's kind gaze reflecting sunrise. He presses hidden petals beneath providence, turning today like a wheel beneath your surrendered heart. Trust the rotation. Where you feared fracture, expect formation. Where you saw rubble, anticipate recreation sculpted by grace. Remain here until every grain is claimed by rain. Know that nothing placed in divine hands remains useless. Dust is the raw material of miracles. Submission is the catalyst. You rise lighter, damp, palmed, carrying the quiet assurance that the same water softening you will soon flow through you, seeking other deserts to awaken. A hush settles after the shower, then a deeper surge sounds. Gutters overflow, alley stones glisten as a new current snakes through the morning. You stand at the threshold, rain-scented air filling your lungs, and realize the downpour is only an outer echo of something rising within. What began as thirst, softened into yielding, now swells into motion, streams springing from hidden caverns of grace. You feel them coursing beneath worry, worn layers, slipping past old barricades of cynicism, carrying silted memories toward tomorrow's sea. Whoever believes in me, rivers of living water will flow from within. St. John 7:38. Faith is not a static creed, but an artesian well. It rises unforced, finding fractures, making an exit into the world. Picture the saucer Lord whose voice once stirred primordial waters, now whispering through your bloodstream. He does not ration, he releases. You sense him enlarging capillaries of compassion, widening chambers of courage so currents can sweep through unhindered. Where resentment once pooled, fresh flow surges, flushing bitterness like debris. Where fatigue clogged motivation, lively streams aerate resolve. You need not pump or pry. Surrender was the lever. Now grace obeys gravity. Notice how living water knows direction. It seeks the lowest spaces first. The overlooked colleague, the silent neighbor, the child wary of dawn. Your veins become tributaries. Kindness drips from speech. Patience seeps into tasks. Gentle humor irrigates tense meetings. What was strictly internal turns generous by design. Even small gestures, holding a door, answering an email with empathy, become rivulets that converge into wider mercy. You carry refreshment because you are being refreshed. Pause beneath an eave and watch drops bead, merge, fall. Each droplet mirrors a promise. Divine supply outpaces demand. Let that truth settle against nagging scarcity myths. When fear warns, what if the flow stops? Recall entire oceans fed by countless springs. The kingdom economy is not measured in buckets, but in rainfall. Lift your face. Feel droplets cool eyelids, reminding nerves that grace is tangible. Consider the seeds this water awakens. Dormant talents, buried beneath seasons of critique, visions shelved when resources shrank, prayers silenced by unanswered echoes. Moisture kisses them now, shells soften, green starts to press against dark husks. You may not perceive growth today, yet germination has begun. Trust the subterranean choreography. Roots dive before stalks appear. Foundations deepen before fruit erupts. One more breath, inhale the petrichor, exhale hesitation. Whisper, flow through me. Commit to remain permeable, quick to listen, slow to speak, ever open to redirection. Like riverbanks shaped by persistent currents, allow today's conversations to sculpt you, carving graceful curves where sharp corners used to jut. Welcome adjustment, water honors malleability. As clouds thin, a final drizzle pearls on leaves, then sunlight flashes across every droplet, turning the street into a corridor of diamonds. Let the scene imprint assurance, the source that saturates you also illuminates you. You step forward, souls splashing in shallow puddles, listening for the quiet symphony of life revived. The journey continues, but now each stride echoes with the laughter of living water. The rain has passed, yet the soil beneath your feet remains lush, holding secrets of depth that the surface cannot tell. You walk among cedars washed clean, their trunks darkened, their fragrance released, and you sense a summons to sink past shallow feelings into the quiet reach of roots. Storms may rattle branches, but resilience is decided underground, where unseen fibers entwine with rock and water alike. So you still your pace, letting breath lengthen, and imagine your soul sending silent tendrils into the aquifer of God's faithfulness. Hay will be like a tree planted by the water, sending out its roots by the stream. It does not fear heat or worry in drought. Jeremiah 17:8. Strength is not loud, it is cellular. It grows in darkness beneath praise and danger alike, drawing constancy from an unchanging source. Remember seasons when you fluttered like leaves in late autumn, startled by every rumor of loss, brittle to the touch. Those days taught you the cost of living unrooted. Now the Spirit invites you to anchor deeper, into scripture rehearsed at dawn, into whispered prayer while commuting, into steady acts of service that braid habit with holiness. Each practice is a taproot, boring past shifting moods toward living groundwater. Picture the network forming delicate root hairs, seeking nutrients of wisdom. Thicker roots forging through compacted memories, the central root descending straight into bedrock promise. This architecture develops quietly. Friends may not notice, public metrics cannot chart it, yet heaven records each inch of progress. As depth increases, capacity expands. Your trunk widens to carry fresh rivers. Your canopy broadens to shade wanderers who never guessed you once felt withered. Pause beside a puddle mirroring the sky and watch ripples settle. Let that stillness teach endurance. Roots deepen best when motionless. In waiting you absorb minerals of patience, trace elements of humility, rare salts of discernment. You do not chase significance. You draw it upward from hidden places. Eventually, renewal becomes structural, no longer a passing feeling, but a framework bearing the weight of tomorrow. Consider decisions pending today, deadlines, dialogues, detours. Before tackling them, ask, from what depth will I act? If you respond from puddle-level impulse, outcomes stay erratic. If you respond from river-level conviction, outcomes bear fruit in due season. Choose depth. When irritation stings, recall the subterranean flow. Resentment cannot flourish where living water circulates. When praise comes, let it pass through leaves and return as transpiration of gratitude, cooling the atmosphere around you. Feel subtle vigor spreading. Posture straightens, gaze steadies, laughter returns without effort. Not every circumstance has changed, yet something within stands unshaken. Rooted renewal carries its own climate. Even heat of midday tasks cannot scorch what drinks continuously from grace. You walk back toward your doorway, leaving footprints that darken the path only briefly before sun lifts moisture skyward again. Beneath each step, roots keep drinking, unseen yet decisive. Take a final moment, press a hand to your chest and whisper, "Ground me deeper." Trust that the one who waters also steadies, that the same Spirit who stirred thirst now secures endurance. Morning advances, but you are not simply moving forward. You are rising with hidden rivers swelling through every fiber, ready to bear the next weight with quiet joy. The midday sun slips through freshly washed clouds, and pavements shine like mirrors. Yet what dazzles most is the quiet surge within you, an artesian fullness pressing against the edges of thought. You recognize the moment when sufficient becomes surplus mercy has soaked every root and now seeks release. You feel it in the lift of your shoulders, in the warmth behind unscripted smiles, in a readiness to notice faces you once hurried past. Your cup is no longer merely filled, it brims, trembling to spill across today's ordinary paths. God is able to make all grace abound toward you, so that in all things, at all times, having all you need, you will abound in every good work. 2 Corinthians 9:8. Abundance is not hoarded wealth, but circulating kindness. The Maker measures prosperity by how widely it flows. You step outside and watch gutters pour into flower beds, turning cobblestones into narrow streams that wind toward thirsty grass. The scene becomes a living parable, supply moving towards scarcity without negotiation. You feel an answering tug, an invitation to lavish generosity as freely as the sky releases rain. Words of encouragement form easily, light yet weighty. They land on weary hearts like droplets that awaken seeds. Time itself loosens. Minutes once rationed now unfold into spacious encounters where you listen fully. Behold without judgment, bless without expectation. Observe how overflow alters posture, arms uncross, footsteps slow, eyes widen to peripheral need. At the grocery line you sense impatience rise behind you. Grace translates awareness into action. Offering place, sharing quiet humor that snaps tension's thread. At work a colleague's sigh betrays invisible strain. Compassion, no longer limited resource, unfolds as attentive silence that grants dignity. Each choice becomes a tributary feeding a river of blessing you did not plan yet gladly steward. Notice too the miracle of returning flow. As kindness departs, fresh torrents arrive. You comfort another and discover weariness lifted from your own shoulders. You give counsel and insight multiplies. You share laughter and sorrow loses grip. Overflow proves cyclic, governed by kingdom hydraulics rather than human calculus. Fear of depletion fades, replaced by assurance that fountains lose nothing in filling cups. Take a breath and envision barriers dissolving, old rivalries, guarded reputations, tight-fisted control. Picture them washed downstream, clearing channels for wider influence. When hesitation whispers, "Not yet, hold back," remember clay softened in earlier rain. Pliable lives convey grace farther than rigid ones ever could. Commit again. Let nothing dam the current. Evening's first swallows sweep the cooling sky, tracing invisible spirals that echo the unending circuit of blessing drawn from source, carried through you, returned as praise. You lift open hands, wet with morning's yielding, strengthened by rooted renewal, and whisper gratitude for privilege, that dusty vessels may pour gold. Resolve to remain interruptible, to treat each intersection as a wellside where another traveler might drink. Let overflow write today's legacy, a trail of refreshment glowing long after daylight fades. You step onto the veranda while the sun still hovers below the roofs, and every blade of grass bears a trembling pearl. Those tiny lenses scatter newborn light across the yard, reminding you that the King who watered the night now crowns the morning with quiet radiance. In their glint you discern a gentle sending go, but go softly as dew goes, touching, cooling, nourishing, then vanishing so the earth can breathe. Unlike the torrent that softened dust, this moisture works by whispers. It settles where footsteps rarely tread, seeping between forgotten paving stones, resting on spider silk no eye noticed yesterday. Likewise, grace within you explores hidden corners of the day, the assistant nobody thanks, the sibling masking fatigue with jokes, the stranger who avoids eye contact on the bus. You carry refreshment precisely for them. In the morning, Lord, you hear my voice. At sunrise I lay my plea before you and watch. Psalm 553 prayer is deployment. Expectation turns porch steps into a threshold where receiving becomes giving. You consider the verse like a map first. Lift requests into the growing light. Next, watch for how the answer walks you toward others. Do never debates where to land. It simply appears wherever night left chill. So you move without flourish, speaking tender phrases that cool irritation, offering patience where conversation overheats, leaving behind no credit except the faint aroma of rain. Remember that droplets are temporary, sun will soon reclaim them. Do not fear this evaporation, for disappearing is part of the gift. People may forget your name, yet still feel revived. Your identity rests not in lasting applause, but in obedience to the moment. Even as moisture rises again, it is drawn upward to form fresh clouds of mercy that will later return, perhaps over someone else's desert. Stay alert to small corridors where your presence can pool. A short text of encouragement, a deliberate pause before disagreeing, a smile that buckles sarcasm. These seem minor, but like dew, they keep foliage supple for the heat ahead. While you act, the Spirit monitors reserves, ensuring you never pour beyond what roots continue to receive. Reliance on hidden rivers prevents burnout masquerading as zeal. When midday glare arrives, inner reservoirs remain cool because dew formed a morning covenant with the ground. In the same way, the silence you cherished at sunrise contracts with your hours. If you return in thought to that stillness, shade unfolds even at high noon. Let this confidence order your schedule, pruning needless bustle, so the living water behind each action remains visible. Now stretch your arms toward the brightening sky, feel droplets flake from sleeves and vanish. A benediction in reverse. Whisper, "Said me," and step forward. Light scatters through receding mist, and birds fling their first full chorus. You walk into that anthem, carrying the hush of dawn inside your chest, certain that wherever the day grows dry, you will arrive glistening with early mercy. Pause before stepping into traffic's hum. Let your lungs remember the rain-washed air, and your mind recall whispered promises. Hold in one palm the thirst he quenched, and in the other the grace now spilling. Notice how your pulse keeps time with heaven's quiet rhythm. Offer today's ordinary movements, typing, cooking, walking, as paths for hidden rivers to run. Smile at the next face you meet, knowing kindness travels faster than worry. Listen for the soft invitation beneath every interruption. Speak blessing aloud, even if only you hear it. Breathe gratitude, release control, walk on with peace.